Hello, everyone, and welcome to Connections for Life. I'm Ted Peet.
I'm Chad Cuvo, and I forgot to come in a weird way, but that's okay because the outer space is behind me. And you're up, Joe.
I'm just right. How is everyone? I'm just upset that I have to wear I'm wearing a sweatshirt. I have sleeves on now.
I'm wearing a sweatshirt too.
I don't like this.
I'm wearing like a light sweatshirt.
What'd you guys do?
Here. So, how was your weekend, Chad?
I don't know. I drank yesterday. I started drinking yesterday at like 11:30 in the afternoon, and I didn't really make it till about 5, and then I fell asleep, and then I woke up, and I don't know. And then I felt bad, and it was just the whole thing. So I don't want to talk about it.
How about you, Joe?
Wow. I didn't do any of those things. I woke up early and coached a couple soccer games for my daughters. We tied 2-2 and tied 2-2. So clearly we're only giving up and putting in 2 goals a game. So
everybody wins.
It was good. Yeah, it was good. It was actually a pretty nice day. Weather was kind of held off for us and stayed kind of warm, so it wasn't too bad. And yesterday I just hung around, cleaned, did laundry, typical stuff. Just kind of getting the house ready for this week, for the tornadoes to blow through this week. But hey, Stella made an appearance. Look at that.
What are you doing? Got any food there?
How about you, Dad? What'd you do?
Yeah, Teddy.
I did something Friday. I'm trying to remember what it is right now. Honestly, I completely forgot. Oh, I went and played some poker on Friday. I went and played a poker tournament Friday night. I did good. A final table, finished 5th. Just outside the money as usual.
Sat there for 7 hours and didn't make anything.
Yeah,
6 players total. 6 players total. Finished 5th. Where are you going, Chad?
Yeah, he's taking the dog.
The show is off the rails. Dogs are here. We're talking gambling. Chad's drunk on Saturday or Sunday afternoons, mornings. I don't know what's going on. Let's get into the guests because clearly we have nothing to offer.
No, we weren't supposed to talk. We're a train wreck today. This is going to be the best one we've ever had.
We'll talk about it after.
Okay. We didn't even get into like the fun stuff.
It's off the rails. Let's get right to the interview. It's way more interesting than we are.
Monday morning.
It is a really good interview. This week we have Mike Hickey, who is the Executive Vice President of Operations for Hallen Construction. And when I tell you guys, he is one of the most interesting backstories of how he got to where he is in life. It is so awesome. And cool. He was so much fun to have on the show. He's a great interview. He's done so many things in his career. How I met Mike originally was when he was serving as the president of DCA, the Distribution Contractors Association. He's now outbound, and there's a new president. But Mike is a really cool guy. He came on the show, and I think he's one of our best guests we've had yet. Just as far
super
as
down to earth too. Just a straight shooter, super down to earth guy. Lots of fun to talk to. Can joke around with the best of them, which is good for us.
Yes.
And within 5 minutes of meeting him, you guys won't see this, but you get to know exactly where he stands with his political affiliation. So that one was for you, Mike. You know what I'm talking about. But Teddy.
So without further ado, welcome to the show, Mike Hickey. Hello, Mike, and welcome to Connections for Life. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
What's up, Mike? How are you?
Very good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That's our pleasure, I promise. So let's just jump right into it. We'll get rid of the formalities. For those of you that don't know you, Mike, why don't you tell us a little about yourself and how you ended up in the industry?
Sure. I started in the business in 1978. I worked in the oil field for a company called Oceaneering down in Morgan City, Louisiana. I did that for 2 years, and then I came back up to New York. The work down there was sort of drying up, and came up here and went to work for a carpenter carrying his toolbox for $8 an hour. After I went out to the job with him the first day, and it was pouring rain out, and there were these guys digging holes in the street, and I said to the carpenter, "Look at those poor guys." And he said, "Those guys are making $18 an hour." And in 1980, that was a lot of money. So I said, "That's what I want to do." So I actually started working on a 6-wheel dump truck with a long-handled shovel, cleaning up debris off the street, and then started digging holes and running jackhammers and hooking up services. Worked my way up to become a foreman, maintenance man, and then I was a supervisor for the first time in 1984 for another contractor, and that contractor went out of business in the late 80s, and I went to work for Hallen with my 3 brothers in 1990, April 1st of 1990, and on around January 1st of 1994, I took over as the vice president of operations, and I've worked my way up in that title, just the title.
Oh, you're still running the jackhammers, huh?
So yeah, and pretty much been running the operation since 1994 for Hallen, so the last 26 years.
90.
Before we get too far ahead, I do want to, you glossed over something that I think is really cool.
It's probably the same thing I'm going to say.
When you were in Louisiana, what exactly did you do for that company?
At that time, you started as a tender, and what you would do is take care of the divers, but then you would just do a lot of pipeline inspection. You'd install anodes on the rigs. You would do rig inspections, fixing flanges, things like that.
That's pretty.
But you were a commercial diver.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff.
That's pretty cool. I just wanted to make sure we touched on that, because when we talked earlier, you know, kind of as to what we were going to talk about and things a couple weeks ago, like that was one thing that was just, I thought was really neat. So I didn't want to gloss over that too much.
Yours wasn't the same as mine, Joe.
Oh, good.
I think what interests me a little bit was the fact that you and your three brothers went to work for Hallen. And this has nothing to do with the next. So, well, it does have something to do with the next question, I guess. But how many stayed, and how, like, you know, were you the lone survivor, or are there there retired, or?
Yeah, well, three of us are still there. One of my brothers retired, and we have another 10 family members working for Hallen, between sons, nephews. So at one point there was 14 of us in Hallen. Now it's 13.
Well,
Yeah, a lot of that second generation that have come have full four-year degrees.
Wow.
In college, and just couldn't get jobs, and they came to work for us, and which really helped. And we'll get into that a little bit later when we started getting into the technology that we deal with now with tablets and iPads and computers. But we'll talk about that in a little while. But there were 14 of us here at one point.
I'll tell you so I met Mike at the Distribution Contractors Association at our meeting in February, and when I say I met Mike, I met all 14 members and the spouses, family members and everything.
The entourage.
Yeah. So I met the
That's
family
awesome
down there, and it was like, all right, man, this is but it goes, and I'm sure Mike will touch on it in the interview, so I don't want about the family atmosphere of PA and the family atmosphere of Hallen. But when he says he has them, they all work there.
That's pretty.
They're all there. They're all
cool.
Part. So
when you have 14 people there and you have second generation kids and everything else, we know you've been there for a long time. I don't want to age you, but why don't you? I'd like to know, I guess, the markets that Hallen serves and how you've grown it over the last few years, because I know it's you're still growing, which is awesome.
Yeah, since about 2012, we've tripled our workforce, our management team, everything across the board. We're up somewhere over 600 employees now coming out of COVID. We're the largest utility contractor in the city, and a majority of the people that do come to work for Hallen are either a friend of a friend or a family member. Obviously, we do get some people from the unions also, but if somebody does bring somebody in, because there's the second generation group, not only the relatives but others, a lot of them do have 4-year degrees, 3 years of school, 2 years of school. And they just couldn't get jobs. And they realized that what we do now is no longer a job. When I first came into it, it was just something that you went to work every day and went home. But now with the amount of training that we do, and the amount of time that they have to spend, whether it's in the classroom, hands-on training, or on some of the IT training that we have to put them through, we actually figure that if we took an associate's degree and put their hours together and compared it to a regular associate's degree, somebody who's fully qualified through Hallen probably has enough schooling to be considered, if it was accredited, an associate's degree in gas technology.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, it's pretty neat. I think I don't think people realize how big your organization is. As you say, you're the largest contractor in New York City. Along with that, obviously, when you started in this industry, it was different, right? You guys didn't have the tooling and the equipment you have now.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to kind of touch on how the industry's changed for you. You know, just from, like you said, OQ, safety, training, et cetera. How's it look, you know, today versus how it did when you first started?
When I first started, we were working in sneakers, shorts, and t-shirts.
That's how we work. That's great.
Hey, I got
we sort of look like you
I had to
guys.
go to a customer.
But we used garbage pails for barricades. There was no operator qualifications. I was cutting off gas services my first week in the hole. I was probably tying in services 2 or 3 weeks after I was out there. One step at a time you would learn. There was no formal training, and no hard hats, no drug testing, which is, I think drug testing was the first step in the right direction, because seeing what I saw in the 80s of the people we were getting, and then when we put drug testing in around Hallen started around the same time we got here in 1990, you could see it weeded out a lot of people. And it was the first step in really making this a more family-oriented business-orientated business, because we would get a different type of people coming to work for us. At one time, they used to say that they used to wait at the bottom of the bridge by Rikers Island and pick people up with a bus and bring them out to the locations. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But absolutely, the type of people that started weeding out was good for the industry. And then they went into the hard hats and the vests around the same time, and then the gloves, and then the operator qualifications actually came around. That was first put into rulemaking in the late, I'd say 1999, I believe it was. And then around 2000 is when it started. So we're almost 20 years into this, we're over 20 years into this, and we're still constantly, great organizations like the Northeast Gas Association and the American Gas Association and the Distribution Contract Association, they're constantly tweaking it and staying in front of it. But having the operator qualifications and where the industry is today is 1,000 times better than it was when I was in the business, when I first came into the business. This is the right way to head. We're dealing with people's homes, people's lives, and I totally support it. And that's why we've gone as far as we have with our training programs and our training center and our whole curriculum that we put together, and we slowly move people through the process.
That's crazy. I think that's awesome. I mean, it's kind of made it more of a career than just a day job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a career, that's it. It's a career. It's not a job. It's a profession.
It's really cool. It's
and a skilled profession at that. And I think that's the one thing, the moniker there. It's not just a guy that can dig a hole with it's guys that need to know how to do things to make sure people are safe, and then put in lines that aren't going to, be problematic or create issues for people down the road. I know that you guys being in the city in a very, urban area, it's very challenging. There's a lot of things in the, in the ground that have been there for years.
That's what I was thinking when I said that.
Different things. Yeah. It's a kind of a different, you're not plumbing a pipeline out in the middle of a farm, right?
No.
I mean, it's a different kind of operation.
It's pretty interesting, and the amazing part to me, and what I appreciate Hallen for, and what other contractors and other people in this industry should follow them from, is that time you put into your employee, because those problems we have, we're always going to have problems in this industry, but the more time you put into those guys, the less susceptible I think that is to happening. And I've agreed for that big time.
When you invest in the people,
you can't say enough about it.
When
it's
you
crazy.
invest in the people, the byproduct is a high quality organization, and
it's exactly right. And high quality work, that's the biggest part. So in that regards, in high quality work, we know you've been here been there for about 31 years, I think it is.
Now you're definitely dating him. You just totally, the bus ran right over him.
Go. But I think, being in the city, what are some of your most memorable projects you've had, or memorable times related to the industry, to the utilities?
Well, right now we're working on a huge project going right through the heart of Brooklyn. As a matter of fact, I think it's that location that's right behind you there. We have a 30-inch steel, we put about 30,000 feet of 30-inch steel going through the heart of Brooklyn. We've been there for about 2.5 years. We're starting to wind down now. That project has been incredible. It's absolutely the biggest project that National Grid or Keyspan or Brooklyn Union, depending on how far you want to go back,
wherever you want to keep going back
in my career. But that was just a very controlled job. Other jobs that I found really interesting was Hurricane Irene. Did hit this area too. We all heard about Sandy, but Irene was on parts of Long Island were worse. than Sandy was. And then we've had numerous outages where we've lost major areas, major geographic areas, and we had to work around the clock. Seeing those type of jobs is great, and we've have a plan that we put together when everything comes in. And then the biggest one of all, obviously, would be 9/11. We were there that night. And then because they were isolating the area, so they had all the contractors moving in, because we had to isolate the electric and gas in the surrounding perimeter.
Right.
So those were some of the big ones. But Sandy was the biggest. I'm sorry, not Sandy. 9/11 was the biggest, because you were right there in the middle of everything.
Can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Wild.
I just think it's neat that you guys are part of the, I mean, it's critical. Gas and heating homes and is critical, and just to be part of the, getting out there and helping people, that's one thing that I think I love about our industry, is that even though we are out working and we have jobs, we're actually helping create a better opportunity and a better life for a lot of people. And I think that's something that we all enjoy that part of our job. So, kudos to you guys. I know it's a lot of hard work, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears go into that. So we appreciate it. I know that for a fact.
Thank you.
So, Chad, you got the next one, or?
No, that was you, but I can ask you if you want me
Oh,
to.
all right, go ahead. I'll let you have it.
I like this one. I like this one.
Oh, so you're just going to jump in and take it then? Okay.
All right, fine, Ted.
Fine, have it.
All right, so I'm going to ask this one. So, how long has Hallen been doing work with Upsco?
Well, long before I got here, they were working with Upsco.
Long before all of us.
For dating us.
Yeah. So I would say probably, if I had to guess, I would say since the 70s, when Brooklyn Union at that time started going from steel to plastic, and they were starting with the fusing, and we started using McElroy, from what I understand, is before I got here, obviously, but from McElroy right from the beginning, and that's what we've been using ever since. As a matter of fact, while I'm talking about McElroy, I know Chip McElroy did a great job. He was telling the whole history of his company, and then he talked about in the early 60s how they went green. Well, Hallen went green in 1927.
See, that's why I have my green shirt on today.
And that one's for my good friend Chip.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But what happened with me personally, as far as obviously McElroy and Upsco were here when I got here in 1990. But in 1993, the fellow who was running the operation had a heart attack, and they asked me to take over in the meantime, which I did. In September, that was in March of 93. In September, he came back and said he was going to retire at the end of the year. And they asked me to take the position permanently, which I did. And Bob Meshy, who was the president of the company at that time, started bringing me around to different functions. Went to the Society of Gas Operators in New York City. Yep, SOGO.
Been there.
And he introduced me to a fellow named Chuck Lang.
I've been there with Chuck Lang.
And as a matter of fact, we call Chuck the Root, because we say he's the person from which all great relationships grow. And anybody who knows Chuck Lang knows, if you want to talk to anybody in Northeast, you talk to Chuck.
It's amazing how many times Chuck Lang's name has been mentioned on this show organically, not pretty much. It's just, if you know him, it's Chuck Lang. You're right.
Well, I was only. Well, I'm going to date myself again. I was 36 at the time when I took over, and I had been introduced to him a couple of times, but. Fast forward a month or two, and I'm down at AGA in Opryland Hotel. And I'd only spent maybe 5 or 10 minutes with him, and went into a bar, and he was on the other side of the bar, and he sees me. And he come walking over, as Chuck does, and he says, "I know you." And I said, "Yeah, I met you at SOGO."
Exactly what he said.
You meet Chuck once and you remember him. And I said, he goes, what are you standing over here for? Come over with us. And he invited me over there, and all the old timers were there from Upsco, and I believe Dan was even there. That would be in 94 or so. But there were a bunch of guys there, and then Chuck just let me spend the night, invited me to dinner with them. I mean, that was just him. So, but that's my favorite Upsco story.
Well, maybe now that you've been on here, we can finally talk him into coming on.
I think I was gonna say, I think it's high time he
I bugged him every time I talk to him every few weeks. Hey, when are you gonna come on the show? He goes, nobody wants to see me, and I'm like, you're wrong.
we should just call him one day and just start recording. I mean, it would be totally good.
Yeah, but him you have to warn.
Yeah, right. Dad's gonna have to brush up on his editing skills. So obviously we've had a good relationship, Mike, and you've been in the business a long, long time. Where do you see all of this heading? Where is the future of the industry taking us? What do you think it looks like?
I think it's probably the most exciting time, as scary as it gets at times. It's the most exciting time for me to be in the industry, and I'll tell you why, for a lot of reasons. I think we have a perfect storm of things going on. What we have is we have the regulations which are going to continue to increase. They're only going to get more stringent. They're going to get harder to comply with. You have a lot of utility companies. We used to go there for a career. A lot of them, they downsized to some extent. And they rely more on their contractors, and they look for their contractors to take on more responsibility. So one of the things we don't do at Hallen is point fingers back at the utilities as things are going on. We try to stay in front of it. We attend all of these meetings and those organizations I mentioned earlier and listen, and including, I've even sat in some of the New York State regulator meetings to see what's coming down the pike and staying in front of it. So I think the opportunities for contractors that are willing to embrace this change and stay in front of it and try to be ready to meet all the challenges to make it easier for the utilities, I think we become we already are an important part of their whole day-to-day operation, but they have to be able to trust us, but you have to embrace it. You just can't sit back and wait for it to happen. You have to go to and attend some of these functions and listen and hopefully do what we like to pride ourselves in. Unfortunately, we have an ownership that allowed us to do that even before Quanta took us over, and Quanta, which was a year ago last month, they believe in safety and quality just as much as the Poole family did when they allowed us to put our whole training program and training center together 3 years ago. So I think it's an exciting time for contractors that are willing to deal with it, and vendors, because you guys, I mean, we talk all the time, and you're trying to find out what our needs are and what the industry is going to be faced with. And that part I think is going to be great for the industry, as long as the contractors separate themselves from just sitting back and waiting to be told to do something, and try to take a leadership role and share it with the utilities to put them in a comfort zone that they have a premier contractor.
Yeah, I think the proactiveness, right? You guys being proactive and getting in front of that and knowing what's coming down the regulations and the rulings, so you can get in front of it and be prepared. So it's not a shock, right? Oh my goodness, we got to change everything because of this. And I think that's a very important point that you make there, is that instead of waiting around and watching the industry change, you guys are being, a part of that and being the change agents, not just for yourselves, but also for the utilities and the customers that they support. So, I mean, we could probably go on forever here. I got about 1.5 million more questions for you. Go ahead, Teddy.
Thing to just bring up before you with exactly what you spoke about just there, tied in everything. I don't know if you got to watch Infusion or partake in Infusion last week with McElroy. Did you see any of that, Mike?
My son Michael was on it. I was not on it.
Oh. Well, one of the keynotes in it, he spoke about exactly what you just described, how being the agent of change and willing to never stop learning was one of the overwhelming themes. But he says he was a guy who put cheese on bread, as he called himself. He was a keynote. He was owner of a pizzeria, one of the top ranked ones in the world. And he goes, you have to be exceptional. So in the contractor market, that is, as I'll reiterate, taking on more responsibility for the utilities every single time. Being what you're supposed to do is no longer enough, and I want to give kudos to Hallen for that and embracing those changes. And like you said, man,
I think the last thing before we head off is you guys embrace it, but one of the things that you're doing that's a lot different than other people, Mike, and I really respect it, is you're also sharing it. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people to do, is to share that just even the notion of that your competitors you're talking about need to embrace it. So that's something pretty awesome to take out of all of it.
Well, one of the reasons we do that too is because any incident affects all of us. Years ago, when you had contractors competing against each other, and if and another contractor had an incident, you'd say maybe that'll be good for us. We could wind up with more work, but that's not the case anymore. If an incident happens in New Jersey, somewhere along the way, the regulations are going to change and we're all going to be impacted. So that's the reason we go to all of these meetings and we share all these ideas, and you hit it on the head. We do share with everybody. I mean, I can't tell you how many contractors that I've met with through the years, and they're asking, we've had them in our training center. None of the ones from New York City, I'll tell you that.
You're from Connecticut? Yeah, you can come in.
That's
But
funny.
it is key to share it with the industry.
That's what we're all here for.
One more point, can I make one more quick point I want to bring up? I touched on it a little bit before.
No.
I think it's important is
Oh, sorry.
a lot of the old timers that knew how to put the pipe in the ground when things were evolving, some of them were weeded out. They just didn't want to change with the times. But these young group, the second generation of people we were talking about earlier, we brought in with some of them with college degrees or a certain amount of schooling. They didn't have to put pipe in the ground, but every one of them grew up with some sort of video game, some sort of a computer or whatever. And to see when we made a commitment to the IT, we're completely paperless. All of our paperwork, all our job briefings, all of our equipment, all of our billing, everything is done with tablets. We have over 200 tablets out in the field. But you have some fellas that got into this business because they couldn't get out of high school, or didn't just barely get out of high school, and they didn't want to go to school. To see the young people teach them how to work with these computers and teach the older fellas, teach the young people how to put pipe in the ground, that blend has been a tremendous success for us, because it's not always having to run to the phone to call up somebody from IT. They just go to one of their laborers, and a foreman go to one of the laborers and say, listen, I got to fill out this job briefing. How do I pull this name up? And it happens regularly to the point now where every one of them have embraced it. And once we weeded out the initial ones that just didn't want to deal with it, we have not lost anybody in probably 2 or 3 years due to the fact that they were being intimidated by a computer. And everything, all of our quality control checks are being done with computers. All of our training records are on computers. Everything is documented on the computer. So anyway, I just thought it was important to bring up that. And other contractors, I've shared that with them, that when you do get into the IT world, the blend of the old timers and the young people, it really works. Give it a chance.
It's awesome.
It's a great message. Yeah.
And that is a tremendous interview, conversation, education piece.
Yeah, we definitely went off the script a little there through there, but that's what makes it fun.
Man, I can't thank you enough for joining us on the show here. I'm definitely texting Chip after this to razz him a little bit now. As soon as we hang up, I'm doing that.
I think Chuck's going to get a call too.
Yeah. And then you're calling the NGA boys. So this is going to be, this interview is going to shake some folks up. But seriously though, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate the contribution that you've given to the industry, to contractors as a whole, and to Upsco personally. So bottom of my heart, thank you for joining us, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mike.
Very much, Mike.
Good seeing you.
You too.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us on the show. That was a great interview. I always really enjoy talking with you, and I'm looking forward to working with you in the future, as you've now transitioned out of the DCA presidency, but you're still hanging around, and I can't wait to further our relationship.
Just what a great guy. Like we talked about before, just down to earth, lots of fun, full of information. The
best thing about him was he texted me after he got done with the interview and was like, I really like you guys, except for that Joe guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's how we all feel.
That's exactly what I said.
That's why I got rid of all the mirrors in my house. I don't want to look at me either. No, seriously though, Mike's pretty cool. It was the first time Chad and I really got to meet him and kind of talk with him. As Ted
That's
said,
also a first for our show, because normally it's Chad and Joe know everybody.
It's not a first. No, it's not.
Now,
Todd Tannehill was that, but we digress. Anyways, Mike's a really cool guy. We had an awesome offline conversation with him to kind of get to know him a little bit. Some of his interests and some of his stories. He's definitely a guy that I cannot wait to get in front of and talk to in person and hear some more of the old time stories, not just about his career, but also his integration with Upsco and all the other industry people that he's been around and surrounded with the last 30 plus years. So thank you, Mike. We really appreciate it. And we want more Mike Hickey as soon as we can. Like, let's love the stories. Maybe we need to do that mashup we talked about, right?
Yeah, that would be fun.
with like Dan and Chip McElroy and them.
Big Chuck.
Chuck, yeah, let's
them
throw
all
that
together.
out there for everybody that's listening. If you guys like contact us, we definitely would put that together. That'd be so fun.
If you see Chuck Lang anywhere around or talk to
Yeah.
him on the phone, tell him to call me because he's supposed to come on the show. But every time I talk to him, he blows me off.
We're gonna do Chuck's Corner. It's just story time with Chuck, you know, just
Could be
5-minute segment, Chuck's Corner. So, but anyways, Mike, seriously, thank you very much. We had a ball doing it as we do with everybody, but really good to put a new connection in our toolbox. Some of us, yeah, Chad and I especially.
Yeah. So the other big news this week for us is the UPSCO Expo. I'm getting really good at that. Yeah, the website is pretty much is 90% live. We have a couple last minute titles and links, but everything there you can, if you go on there, you can register for any class, any presentation, anything you want to see. It will change a little bit. The descriptions and the website will change as we keep making changes through it, but we pretty
hopefully
much
not too much. I think we're pretty much there. We have just like Chad said, 90 to 95% of the registrations are completed and up to snuff. There's only one guy that we're waiting to finish their stuff. He's kind of knows who he is, so we don't have to call him out.
And there's,
Yeah.
hi, Ted.
I want to point out, guys,
His name starts with T and ends with Ed.
everything is almost complete and all this stuff almost 2 months in advance.
Yeah.
So listen.
Oh my gosh, we were prepared one time. Wow.
That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, great. That's great info, though.
Something we want to talk about is that it is free of charge. Everything on there that you click on does not cost a penny. So we're not looking for anything out of it. We just want to spread the education, spread the value. You know,
Educational summit. It's an educational summit.
Yeah, and it's free, which you can't say it enough, especially in this industry. Sometimes it's everything you kind of do has a price tag associated with it usually. We don't want it to be like that. We want this to be free. We want all our customers, whoever it is in the industry, customers, competitors, whoever wants to come on and watch, you're more than glad. We'll be more than glad.
Yeah, absolutely. And to echo that sentiment, not to get too long-winded here, but the other thing that we're looking into is maybe not for this one, but for the next time we want to roll this out, because this isn't going to be a one and done. We're going to kind of keep this going and see if we can continue and make it larger as we go on. But we want to see if we can somehow figure out to get professional development hours credits as well. So Chad and I had been working on that. We still continue to. It doesn't look like it's probably going to happen for this go round, but we're trying to position ourselves. So just again, free stuff. We want to make sure that everybody that can be on it can be on it. If you have any problems with scheduling or conflicts, we will be taping all of it. All of it will be posted on the website afterwards, all of the links. So if you can't for some reason make it, it will be available offline after the event. But again, as Ted alluded to, we have 2 months and we wanted to allow people the time to be able to register and ask questions. So if you have any, please, click on the registration boxes and reach out and let us know. That's it for us.
Additionally, this week, the week beginning October 5th, we also have 2 other big events taking place right now. The 6th and 7th, so Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, is the Distribution Contractors Association fall meeting. So if you're an outward organization that's involved with the DCA, get yourself registered, check in. There's a bunch of great classes. I can't wait to sit through the next couple days and get updates on and that kind of stuff. And then Thursday and Friday, the 8th and 9th, is the Northeast Gas Association's fall exhibition conference. There's another great group of classes that are available.
I thought you were going to say fall extravaganza. And I was like, I really, in my heart, hope that you said that. Actually,
where was that one when it's on location? Where is that NGA one?
It's the NGA
it's in Albany.
Typically in Saratoga Springs.
Gotcha.
So it's done. I mean, I'll tell you, that was one of the first ones I actually got to go to once I became part of Team UPSCO. Myself and Gene Cody, our New England regional sales manager. He took me there and kind of showed me the ropes. I met some great guys. First time I ever met Doug Stafford was at that event. And
little shout out to Dougie. Dougie, hope retirement's going well, my friend.
Man, Doug's living the life on the beach somewhere right now. I think he's MIA, and I don't blame him.
He's still tuning in. I know, Dougie. Comment and let me know. I know you are.
But no, it's a great conference when it's in person. A lot of fun down in Saratoga Springs. Other than that, though, I don't know. Any other updates, fellas?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. We can let everybody stop listening to us now.
They stopped listening 20 minutes.
If anybody made it this far, we're still looking for trying to really push people for prefab orders too for early next year. Our capacity's getting eaten up by people, and you need to get on that.
That's a big point. Get your orders in now to prevent the lead time issues that are going to come when the rush happens. So
Absolutely.
all right. Well, without further ado, then, Connections for Life out.